Hey, this is Nate from Zelda Informer, and this is this week's video cast, and I don't really have a lot to talk about yet again, just like last week, but Zelda Wii is actually going to be talked about again. Why? Because of this. Monster Hunter Tri. The game actually just came out yesterday, and I've had about 5 hours of game time with it. So, what does that have to do with Zelda Wii? Well, first off, last year, I can't remember exactly who said it off the top of my head. It might have been E.G. Anoma who said it himself. But it was some member of the team working on Zelda Wii said that they had to rethink their approach to the graphics because of what they were seeing with Monster Hunter Tri. Or Monster Hunter 3 for those who don't like the whole Tri thing. Well, so that's kind of one way. Okay, obviously the graphics in the game affected last year the development of Zelda Wii. They had to redo everything, and that's why they weren't sure about the graphical direction at some point last year. Uh, then there's the whole Anomu, Eiji Anomu saying that he has been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Tri. Now this was said last year, so I'm not talking about it right now. So he played a lot of it last year to get ideas and concepts for Zelda Wii, to take some stuff that Monster Hunter Tri did well and incorporate it in some unique fashion into Zelda. And I think that's a good move because it kind of showed two teams maybe possibly working together. Who knows? Pointers, tips. It's just kind of neat to see some more outside influence for Zelda Wii that's not just Nintendo based. Which, everybody wants a little bit of change, a little bit of more uniqueness with Zelda Wii, and outside of the control scheme, we might be getting it just in the stuff going around. So, in the first 5 hours that I've played Monster Hunter Tri, there's a few things I saw that may end up being in Zelda Wii. Now, I'm not going to go into everything yet. I'd like to put in about another 15 to 20 hours into the game so I can do some of the bigger hunts, kind of get out of the starting area so I can see what the rest of the world's kind of like, and get a better idea for what other things might be put into it. And I also don't want to get into it because I'm presently working on an article that takes Monster Hunter Tri stuff and throws it into potential Zelda Wii rumors and ideas and all that jazz. Because we all like to speculate about stuff. But that'll be coming next week or so I don't want to ruin everything. But I'll just talk about a couple things I saw in the first 5 hours that I will be mentioning in my article. First off is the equipment system. There are different ways to get equipment. You could straight up buy equipment from the shop vendor in the opening town. They sell pretty much two different sets of armor for like your heads, your hands, your chest, your belt, your legs, whatever. Two different sets of armor, and then like a couple different weapons. No big deal. It seems like pretty basic starting stuff. Or you can craft your own, you don't actually craft the equipment. You collect the supplies with a sum of money for another guy, another NPC, this little goblin type dude, to craft it for you. So, in this whole crafting method, I think this crafting idea is something that Onuomu might have been intrigued by. Intrigued by enough to put something similar in Zelda. Not that you would make your own stuff, but you might be able to upgrade your own items through a similar system. I'm not going to go into that too much because I'd like to leave most of that for my article, but I'm thinking something more along the lines of, in Monster Hunter, you can get stuff to upgrade your initial weapon, your initial sword that you get, and with that sword you can make it sharper. Its upgrade can be to make it a sharper weapon, which means it does more damage. And it also means that when you go to sharpen it with a whetstone, which if you've ever sharpened a knife before, you know how you go back and forth on this thing. Well, they would use a stone, and you'd use the stone to sharpen the edge, and it would make it be able to be even sharper. So instead of just looking at that weapon, its maximum sharpness then would be a glowing green thing. So anyways, I'm thinking that it could be something like that in Zelda, where you take And it's kind of been in it before where like you fixed broken weapons, but instead your weapon won't be broken. Instead, say you have the Master Sword as an example. We all know the Master Sword. Take the Master Sword and say that it has all its power. We don't need to go find Triforce pieces or the stuff that we've been doing for 23 years. It already has its power, but you can make it by your own choice. It's not required. Do more damage by collecting certain types of items, taking them to this blacksmith guy, and paying him some rupees, and he makes the weapon better for you. Is that crickets I'm hearing? So it's something that kind of makes sense to me. They've done it a little bit if you want to start talking about like some of the sword upgrades in Majora's Mask and all that stuff. But you know, I'm talking on a much grander scale. Being able to do it with all your items, such as being able to take your bow and arrow and as an optional upgrade, not a side quest, as an optional upgrade where you just collect random raw materials in the world, taking that to a blacksmith, paying him some rupees, and he can help convert that bow and arrow into a crossbow. Like the one from Link's crossbow training. So it's a neat idea, and I think it's something that could be involved. Another thing that might be involved, I don't see it happening, but it's a potential, is the removal of body parts. I've only experienced it so far once in the game. I experienced it more times in the demo, actually, because there's some more higher up encounters you're doing in that demo. But if you attack different body parts on a monster in Monster Hunter Tri, you can actually eventually cut off or remove those body parts. So if you're attacking the tail area, you can actually cut off that tail. And not only does it weaken him, obviously, it ends up taking away one of his attacks. Now, they've had this in boss fights in Zelda before. Like, let's just use Twilight Princess as an example. You got the big Duka Baba boss thingamajigger in the first Forest Temple dungeon. Okay, you take out one arm, you take out the other arm, bam, there goes two of his attack. Or there goes his lunge attacks from his arms, and then you attack the head. I mean, you don't have to do that, but you can. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, except in a more permanent sense, because those arms come back. I'm talking about, say you're fighting a flying dragon, okay? That was also in Twilight Princess, there was a flying dragon. So say you're fighting the dragon, and you cut off one of its wings. That's it. It falls down to the ground. It can't fly anymore. That's the kind of stuff I'm getting at. It brings a more epic feel to the combat. I'm not saying the combat is perfect in Monster Hunter. I'm just saying that the whole being able to remove certain elements or certain parts from what you're fighting to cause it to not be able to do something anymore is neat. And I really like that in doing it in Monster Hunter Tri. It doesn't tell you that you can do it. It doesn't tell you where you should be hitting him. You need to figure it out on your own. Like if you want to stop that dragon from flying, yeah, sure, it might logically make sense for you to cut off the dragon's wing, but you don't know if you're able to do that, and there's no sweet spot or little thing telling you to do it. You just do it and see what happens. It's kind of similar to the whole Shadow of the Colossus concept with bosses, except I think that's a more glorified version of what I think a lot of people would like to see the Zelda bosses to be, but we know it's never going to be like that. So that's another thing I see, is just maybe the possible removing of certain parts permanently from a boss, and being able and having the boss not possibly tell you that you can remove those parts. You just kind of find out on your own, and it's all optional. You actually don't have to do that to win the fight. So what that does is it actually makes the fight different every time you do it. So that's it, actually. That's all I'm going to talk about. That's all I could really say about the first 5 hours in terms of what it might have to do with Zelda Wii. Now, if you are still on the fence about getting this game, I don't blame you. There hasn't been a lot of superly great third-party games for the Wii. I know No More Heroes 2 came out. Red Steel 2 is coming out, which Red Steel 2, by the way, looks completely different than the first one in terms of how good the game actually is. But if you are on the fence about this game, if for anything other than being a person that complains about not having good third-party quality games on there, even if this game isn't the one for you, because this game's going to take hundreds of hours of your life, um, the reason you should buy this game is because you want third parties to be committed to making great games for the Wii, not aimed at families per se. And that's what this game is. It's a great game. It's the first of its kind for the Wii. And if you want Capcom, the makers of Monster Hunter Tri, or anybody else, any of the other major game companies to start making serious games like this for the Wii, then you need to buy these games so they understand that there's a profit value.